Prairie Portage Primer is the next exhibit happening at the Moose Jaw Museum and Art Gallery, and I happen to be standing here with the artist, Brad Copping. Brad, first of all, welcome to Moose Jaw.
Thanks. It's great to be here. Again.
Yeah, exactly. That's my first lead into this question is the curators for the Swift Current Art Gallery and the Moose Jaw Art Gallery had you travel around Saskatchewan to come up with the concept for this exhibit, right?
Yeah. I was invited to travel around southwestern Saskatchewan, try and get a sense of the landscape here and try and make some work around that. My partner Sue Rankin is from Moose Jaw, born and raised here, and actually had an exhibition here a couple of years back of her glass work. She's a much more formal vessel making is more of her approach with glass work, but so that was the connection to the curator here. But my approach to work is quite different than my partner's. I'm much more conceptual, idea-based sculpture. So I was invited to have a look at the landscape. My approach to making work is through water. That's how I experience the landscape. I'm from central Ontario, lake country, so rivers, lakes, swamps. It's all part.
Cottage country.
Yeah, well, it's cottage country, but it's bush. It's when the cottagers aren't there, it's ice. So it's a lot of. My way of looking at the world is through that. So I tried, in being invited here into a very dry landscape, how do I translate? How do I make that work? So what I decided to do was to try and follow the waterways from Swift Current through to Moose Jaw. So take the Swift Current Creek down at its headwaters down near East End and follow it up to Diefenbaker and across down the Qu'Appelle and then back down the Moose Jaw to Moose Jaw. So that was the premise for looking at give yourself some rules as to what you're going to look at. So put the canoe on the roof of the van and headed out, and that was in 2010, probably the wettest year I think Saskatchewan had in a long time. So my experience was a lot of an incredibly lush environment. I had never seen so much hay in my life, and coming from central Ontario, you expect to see a lot, or you're used to seeing a lot.
You have an image of what Saskatchewan is.
Yeah. I mean, I've been here a number of times, throughout the years. Sue's family is still here. They're in Regina now, no longer in Moose Jaw, but having experienced the Qu'Appelle Valley and some of the region. It just gave me a flavor of what to expect, and it certainly was a fair bit different that year because of the amount of moisture. But
looking around at some of the pieces, one thing that comes to my mind is minimalist, but it also makes great use of the space here.
Yeah. The idea for me was to trying to reflect on that Saskatchewan experience. When you're out on the prairies, it is quite minimal in some ways. What stands out on that landscape often is just the power lines, and that particular year it was the hay bales, the number of hay bales that would be just massive balls of green, lush water. It's the water. The water is wound up in this plant material, and it's sitting up on the landscape. So, for me, using glass as a means to talk about that water, it's a real natural. There's something about the fluidity of the material and the colorlessness of glass that allows those kinds of metaphors to happen. But in the exhibition here, I didn't want to clutter the space, because space is part of the experience here. So it's open, it breathes, it allows room for everything to be seen.
Yeah, probably the most recognizable imagery of water is the piece right behind us with the playing with the light. But you also happen to have the contrasting view, the checkerboard. It's just right in front of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. That yield sign of that checkerboard. You know, you're traveling down these roads and you come up on these signs. Why are they there? Because the road ends, because that's where a river runs through. So there is a connection there that way, but it's also the checkerboard of the landscape.
You've also just touched a chord with one of my favorite movies. So.
Oh,
There you go. Brad, it looks like a very interesting gallery of work, and I want to thank you for joining us here today.
Oh, thank you. Thanks very much.